Welcome to sewing class. I'm Annette Julie, and today we're going to be working on French seam. This is part of sewing notebook number 2. This is project number 2 in sewing notebook number 2. So what we need is 2 4 by 7 inch swatches, 4 inches across, 7 inches on the length, and you need to have watched the how to prepare the muslin swatches video prior to this. You're going to go ahead and get a writing implement, and you can put the right and wrong side of the fabric. So I'm going to call this the right side. This is where you would have a print, such as the print that I'm wearing here. It's the right side. Here inside, we can see this is the wrong side. We'll indicate, again, this clean side. This is the right side of the fabric. And this is where we would have the print, just like on the dress that I'm wearing. Here we have the wrong side. Okay, great. Now that we have labeled our 2 swatches, you're going to go ahead and take them, and we're going to put them together, wrong sides together. So, wrong and wrong. Place those together. Line these up along the edge, and the top and the bottom. And let's use our 3 pins to go ahead and pin that seam. Let's pin top, bottom, and middle. But like I said, make sure the corners and the edges are totally lined up. Pin top, pin bottom, and the middle. Now we're ready to go ahead and sew with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. But if you'd like to, you can go ahead and mark the seam allowance as well. Start at the top. Remove the pin, drop down, and there are 2 different ways of making a French seam. This way I'm going to do a little bit of trimming. I'm going to sew the full 1/4 inch, and I'm going to go back and trim. But another way of doing it is sewing it less than the 1/4 inch, do no trimming, and then the second 1/4 inch you sew a little bit more. So there's several different ways of doing it. Let's go forward. 1, 2, and 3, and then back. Do a little back stitch. Remove those pins before you get to them. And at the end, let's do a little back stitch. Trim our threads nice and close. And I was mentioning on this type of French seam, we're going to trim off a little bit. Not down to an 8, but maybe like around 3/16 of an inch. Now, if you like to measure that, go ahead and draw that in. We're just trimming off a little excess and leaving about that 3/16. We've trimmed it. Now we have to press this. We're going to press that seam. We're going to press it to one side. And then we're going to press it where the seam is enclosed. So we'll press first on the right side, then on the wrong side. And we're going to press right on the edge of that seam. Let's give it a good pressing. With a hot iron and lots of seam. Press one seam to the one side, and now press on the wrong side of the fabric, lining up the seam right on the edge. Right on that edge. Now we're going to sew our second 1/4 of an inch, and feel free to go ahead and mark this. We're going to be sewing on the wrong side. Needle up. And the presser foot was up, now the presser foot's down. Let's get that needle right on our line that we drew. Great. Let's start with a back stitch. And here we go. Coming to the end of the seam. Little back stitch. I'm going to trim those threads nice and close with the thread snipper. And we have completed the French seam. You want to go ahead and press it. And here on the right side, we would have no seam allowance showing. Down the whole seam, there's nothing in there. And on the wrong side, you see the stitching where it's all encased. And this is our French seam. And you can write your name on this. That is also number 2 French seam. That's the end of the demo. This is Annette Julie. I look forward to seeing you in the next demo. Au revoir.